Good evening. Welcome to Focus on Liberia, Roundtable Africa. I am their correspondent, Edward Amara, currently based in Kenema City, Freetown, Sierra Leone. You're all welcome to this all interactive program. Focus on Liberia is an important program that brings you the latest update on the continent. It is a program that entertains, educate, and inform you about everything Africa. This is a program that take you from maybe give you the latest information and development on the continent. We all know Africa, of course, is an interesting continent. Africa is full of international events. Africa is full of issues that affect what many people think should not be in existence. When you watch at Africa, people think and feel that, okay, oh, this is a continent that is full of youth, young people, but we all agree on that basis. But how effective is the continent making use of its citizens, the population that it has? You have the opportunity to hit the share button and help us sharing this particular program across groups and other forums. And we appreciate your meaningful contribution on the program. As I normally say, when you watch an African continent, it's full of breaking news. The continent itself got a lot of things, maybe that is militating against its very success. Maybe there are things that are created out of leadership, things that are absolutely natural, things that maybe can also be said that it is out of our own making. When you watch at the continent, there are times you tend to watch, why are we behaving so? This is a continent where we have maybe, some people will say around 55 countries on the continent, but with divided mentality, divided people with different type of ideology, different cultural background, educational background, because we are colonized by different powers, and those powers carefully shape us, and in so doing, we have not been able maybe to reunite ourselves, to speak with one voice, and to have maybe a continent where we can have a single way of presenting things. There are times we present our problems in a magnificent way, but when it comes to the deliveries, they become so imprudent. And it is quite amazing that when you watch at the continent, you watch at those who found themselves on the continent, maybe you watch at the manipulations, you think that Africa is definitely not growing with almost everything that we have at our disposal, because we have natural resources. We have maybe an area where have not been affected by global warming as compared to other continents. We all need to accept that. Then also, we have a very maybe energetic population, a type of population that have the ability to grow from one stage to another. But if you also take a critical analysis of almost everything that happened, even though with all what we have, you will tend to understand that we are still backward. Do we have the potential to grow? Yes. But is there a foundation laid for those potential to grow? It becomes really affected, because even our most of our leadership on the continent are definitely not living up to expectation. So we are expecting a continent that we speak with one voice, irrespective of the different type of colonial powers that actually colonize us during the struggle for partition in Africa. Africa should have developed from one stage to another. Unfortunately, we still rely on importation. We are actually managing donor-driven economy. We are managing an employment rate that is almost, if you watch out, almost like 8 citizens being unemployed. If you count 10 citizens on the continent, illiteracy is high, poverty, ignorance, and most of those things are happening. And still, these are our so-called leaders. Most of them are still yoked with the Western world. And some of them, when they corrupt the continent very well, they tend to take everything that we gathered outside the continent. And that is why we are now having a situation that almost everything that we have are donor driven. And the donor driven mentality have never been able maybe to help us develop from any positive stage. So these things are actually sad, and our educational system are very appalling. The health system is backward. When you watch our infrastructure, of course, it's nothing good to write home about. Even when you watch at some of the statistics, in Africa, you have a lot of people who are suffering from mental problems. And you have, like, even when it comes to drugs abuse, of course, it's very high, very on the high. And if you watch almost everything, because like anything negative definitely have the opportunity to grow on the continent. Reason being, they have the easy market. People are disgruntled, people are poor, people are illiterate, and there is hunger on the continent. As long as there is hunger, some people may definitely tend to involve into things maybe that may not ginger up the farm development or the continent. So we are actually pleading to our leaders, pleading to decision makers, pleading to those who matter to us so that they can ensure that this particular continent maybe have a very strong foundation to see how we can definitely manage our situation. So welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am their West African correspondent, Edward Amara, coming to you with the latest developments on the continent. Focus on Liberia gives you the opportunity maybe to listen to the latest development, things that affect our continent. Maybe also provide solutions that you and I can sit down and discuss things. First today, let's start to watch at issues on the continent. We are going to start with Nigeria. Nigeria's president opens a bridge by Zoom. We are seeing President maybe Muhammadu Buhari came into power in 2015. We are all having high hope, but from yesterday, and based on what we know and learned, and maybe saw what is actually happening on the continent, how do they call him? Muhammadu Buhari is actually leaving a continent that is more indebted, where people feel more poorer, insecure compared to the time. He's even leaving the country into debt. He came, he met, Nigeria was having around 60 billion debt. Now he's leaving the country in a debt of $160 billion, which tells you that maybe the inflation rate, economic setback, political crisis actually affected the continent. But the problem here now is that he also created some because of his laxity in type of leadership, and most of the problems also exacerbated under his leadership. And when you watch at the continent, almost everything tends to be affecting, and when you have a high growing population, then you cannot live up to that expectation, maybe fulfilling what the population actually needed. So in those things, you have a disintegrated, disorganized, and a deeply volatile society. So Buhari has actually opened a bridge that is actually connecting the southwest to the northwest. And the governor of Anambra State actually wanted to name Muhammadu Buhari as Mr. Infrastructure, if that could have given the president a very good name. But he said, no, we cannot name the president so. However, he applauded Mr. President, and he opened this particular bridge by Zoom. And Buhari, this is the sixth project he's opening, and he's due to step down officially as the president of Nigeria on the 29th, which is definitely on Monday. We're having Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu coming into power. Of course, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is facing series of court cases against his person, especially based on his election. Although the INEC of Nigeria, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission of the country, is firmly think that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the election, and maybe the allegations against his person and even neck are not sustainable, they're not substantial, and they cannot overturn those things. But looking about the bureaucratic nature of the Nigeria petition hearing, I think it has to take the tribunal around 180 days for them to actually table the case into court, or maybe render a verdict on it. When they will start the hearing, they have now started hearing, but they have a period of 6 months to complete the hearing and maybe make their own verdict. And if the verdict being made in the election tribunal court is not being accepted, then I think they have to take the case to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has a period of 90 days or 3 months. By then, what do you think? Buhari will be into Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be into power for a very long time, and he will have the opportunity maybe to appoint people who listen and think about him person and to support him. So the president has actually opened that bridge. And yesterday also, we saw that we saw and heard Dangote, a business enterprise, launching an oil refinery which will be able to produce 650 barrels per day in Nigeria. Although that one will not solve the fuel crisis or the hiking of prices in fuel on the continent. However, it will provide the opportunity for to prevent the shortage of fuel on the continent. And we are thankful to Dangote. So let's come to Tigray. Tigray is actually in Ethiopia. Tigray protesters call for return of those who fled war. Tigray was actually fighting war against the central government of Ethiopia, led by Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. He did a lot. He won the Nobel Peace Prize because he managed actually to ensure that there is peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea. That was what he did. By the end of the day, he angered the Tigrayan people. The Tigrayan Liberation Forces took arms and ammunition against his person. And it was only last year in November when they struck a deal, and that actually brought the automatic end of the war. However, people in the Afar Amara region joined the Eritrean and Ethiopian forces to fight against the Tigray region. And those in the Amara region now have actually refused to leave the farmland that they invaded, popularly claimed and also agreed by the Tigrayan people that the land actually belonged to them. So those in Amhara region are still occupying farmlands that belong to the Tigrayan people. And those who are actually occupying those lands have fled from the attack of people from the Afar and Amhara region are actually calling on the Ethiopian government to ensure that their lands are being actually relinquished to them. Then at the same time, the people of the Afar and the Amhara regions, people who came from there, should definitely return to their homes. And we are also seeing the people in the Tigray region are still complaining that Eritrean forces are still found on the soil, which also did not provide the opportunity for them to claim that they are actually liberated. So there is some amount of agreement. I mean, care is not taken. If that conflict is not definitely being managed carefully, we are afraid, but we may end up to see another bad clash, which may be very, very difficult for such a conflict like that to handle. So let's go to Ghana. Power has restored to Ghana hospital after babies die. We are seeing in Ghana, in the southwest region, there was actually power shortage into the country because the country national power supply claimed that most government parastatals or institutions are refusing actually to settle their electricity bill. And in that note, the institution, the company end up to maybe cut the power or maybe render those people in a state of blackout until they can settle their bill. The doctors there are claiming that several babies have died over the period. Unfortunately, a local politician who is an MP and a mayor have actually agreed to settle those bills. Power has been restored, and the doctors in that particular region are actually happy to ensure that they have, or happy with the availability of power once more, which will definitely ensure that babies' lives are actually being protected. But that is the hypocrisy of African society. Nobody knows who to blame because this is a private electricity company which can only render service to you when the government is paying a bill. But they are only giving government institutions power without those institutions paying for the bills. So you may think and feel that may be close to those who actually pay the bill. We appreciate them, but also we are calling on the government institution to ensure that they settle up their bill. Because at the end of the day, if those two institutions come at loggerhead, it is the commoners and people who actually should not suffer, like those innocent babies that die. It's pathetic, maybe it's heartrending, it's the kind of things. The family, maybe I am also touched, I am moved. I feel a bit disorganized when things like that actually happen on the continent. But that is Africa where we live. Even when you have all the opportunity to get something, definitely you can be put aback. And if you become so vocal, you can easily be attacked. This is why sometimes some of us tend to be very careful in what most of the time that we do. Because the continent is so unpredictable. They don't like somebody who is vocal. They don't like somebody maybe who speaks the truth. They can definitely come across you. Senegal opposition leader boycott rape trial cases. Usman Sanko is a kind of opposition leader in Senegal who is a bone in the throat of Michael Sall. Michael Sall's term of office has actually expired, and we are expecting him to actually announce to the world, including the Senegalese, that he's not willing to contest for another election into the country. Instead, the dude has decided to say maybe it is the people who will decide that he should contest or not. This is why some manipulative African leaders normally tend to do what they do normally is to actually conduct a referendum, change the patterns of the election, especially the presidential term of election. He made it 7 years, he now changed it to 6 years. And maybe he want to use the opportunity by saying since it's 6 years, he never ran on the 6 year basis. Now he's about to change it, or the constitution has been changed. He actually wants to contest. Usman Sanko has been seen as the main opposition leader. He was actually accused of defaming the country terrorist minister. He was given a 6-month jail suspension sentence. Now he's under trial for rape and assault on a lady who does massage in one of those centers in Senegal. But the man has actually disagreed or denied the allegation against his person, but similarly he did not appear in court, and his supporters have actually barricaded his home and prevented the police from arresting him. So the situation is definitely a kind of dire one, and so I think Senegal should need to be very careful on how to handle such issues like that, because it will end up to create pandemonium, which will definitely not be good for a kind of development for such country. Let's see, Uganda restrict pilgrims from trekking overnight. We are seeing people come from DRC, Congo, Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, and others to attend actually a pilgrimage in Uganda. That was when the Kabaka of Buganda ended up to assassinate a lot of people in the 1885s, quite a long time, because of professing the Christian faith. So doing, they actually take that particular faith to be something that is very good. People come over there, but the police are actually warning that because of the mass movement of people, over 1 million of people into that region of the world, it has resulted into a series of theft incidents and other things. So the police are actually preventing the pilgrims from actually moving on the night. They should do their trekking during the day and have to attend also their anniversary religious ceremony where they actually perform their rituals to ensure that no other Kabaka of Buganda does such thing, although Buganda now is known as Uganda today. So the police are actually saying nobody should trek overnight. Trek is just like a movement for pleasure overnight. You walk on foot. They are saying nobody actually should trek overnight. Then we'll come to another story. Ghanaian preacher named peacekeeper named UN Gender Award winner. Ghana is actually one of the countries especially on the continent with the highest number of female soldiers in the UN peacekeeping force, around 375. So the lady has actually been named, the captain in the Ghanaian army has actually been named, who's actually serving as a United Nations peacekeeper in the Southern Sudan, have been named as the best gender female advocate of the year. She has actually been seen, she has performed that role, and hope that other Africans should also emulate such thing. And maybe the prize will be handed over to her on Thursday by Antonio Guterres. Antonio Guterres is actually the United Nations Secretary General. Let's come to South Africa. South Africa chased away manager. South Africa changed away mayor as cholera cases rise, and why a top officer of the ANC said that fake South Africa could be a failed state. Let's start from Pilexit Mbalula, who is the South African Information Minister, has actually said, oh, now he's also Information Minister, also Secretary General of the All African National Congress, have said that because of what? Because of the war in Ukraine, COVID-19 and global warming, it has resulted into power shortage to South Africa, which may definitely render the country into a failed state. He's saying that almost one person in three South Africans is definitely unemployed. And most of the gain made by the ANC in the past almost 3 decades will definitely be rendered to nothing because of the current situation. He's calling on South Africans to be peaceful, to compound themselves diligently, and to ensure that they adhere to the government's standard of trying to improve things. He has actually not choose to blame the government because global warming, the war in Ukraine, and the COVID-19 are definitely the key factors that South Africans are almost about to fail. He's describing the country as a failed state. Another development in Pretoria, the mayor in one of those states is Pretoria, or one of the cities, or one of the portions of the city in the capital city of Pretoria have actually been chased away by his supporters. Around 15 people have actually been declared dead. Over 100 have been admitted, and 37 have been confirmed to be suffering from cholera. When the mayor visited the hospital with other stakeholders, he was actually being chased away. He was blamed by the locals that he failed to honor their social contract, and it's because the mayor failed to provide good health facility and also water facility that have actually resulted to people suffering from cholera. And we all know cholera is just like maybe drinking infected food or water. That is actually the result. So that is an unfortunate development into that part of the country. Then finally, we come to Mama Liberia. Liberia loses trace of suspect after 100 million drugs trial. This is actually maybe absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is what Liberia, we all know, have actually been named maybe before this time when they arrested that 100 million cocaine worth of cocaine in Liberia. It was being seen as one of the countries on the continent maybe that has the ability to curtail the widespread of cocaine on the continent. Unfortunately and absolutely amazing, we are now hearing and seeing that that particular country, the drugs, those who are arrested for the particular crime have been found not guilty. And that is taken as laughable stuff. It's ridiculous thing on the continent. Let me just go through the news for you. The authorities in Liberia say they have lost all the trace of all suspect drugs dealers linked to 100 million cocaine shipment after a trial unexpectedly acquitted them. After a trial jury unexpectedly acquitted them. Last year, with assistance from the US and Brazil, Liberian security officers seized a container with more than 500 kilograms of cocaine inside. 4 men from Liberia, Portugal, Lebanon, and Guinea-Bissau were arrested in what was seen at the time as one of Liberia's biggest success against drug smugglers. But last week, a jury in the capital, Monrovia, found them not guilty. The Justice Minister condemned the decision, saying it had brought international ridicule on Liberia. He vowed to re-arrest them, but they have fled since. Liberian authorities have launched a manhunt for the suspect. Absolutely insulting. Absolutely unexpected. Absolutely shocking. But to me, it is a disappointment but not a surprise. looking at how corrupt Liberia is, how unstable, how disloyal and unpatriotic most African leaders are, especially when it comes to judiciary system. The action of the judges to acquit those so-called criminals is definitely a surprise, well, a disappointment, but definitely not a surprise. So I wonder how those people will be arrested. Thank you very much. It's been me, Edward Amara, focus on Liberia, West African correspondent, coming to you with the latest development on the continent. Join me tomorrow, same time, same place, where we will be discussing different news headlines.